So here's a situation many startup founders and sellers find themselves in. They do such a good job on the intro call. They feel like their demo was compelling. They feel like the prospects are aligning with their approach, vision, and philosophies. And then after the call, the prospect ghosts them for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, even months. It's such a painful experience because you had such high optimism and what you felt like was alignment on the first call. This ghosting from prospects is something a lot of my clients come to me with when they initially start working with me. And so what I'm gonna do in this video is break down some tips on what you can do when your prospects ghost you after a great first call. I've had experience at large tech companies like Google, but also hyper-growth startups like Dropbox, where I helped pioneer their first enterprise deals. From there, I went on to other tech companies like Slack, Front, and most recently Twingate, where I've dealt with a whole range of clients and prospects and have experimented myself with different ways to follow up to minimize the amount of ghosting that happens with me and my team. So without further ado, here's tip number 1. If your prospects are ghosting you in an enterprise B2B sales cycle, the first thing you do is, instead of following up with the entire group, pinpoint somebody who you thought was your champion or the most positive sponsor on the first call and one-on-one message them to almost create accountability and ownership over the reply. So you could forward the latest note and say, "Hey John, I noticed that the group hasn't gotten back to me yet, but there was so much excitement on that first call. Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on? Is there still interest in moving forward with the evaluation of our product?" So really narrow down who you're going after so that one prospect within the multiple stakeholders that are in the evaluation feels ownership to respond to you. Here's tip number 2. Also think about changing up the channel through which you follow up. Oftentimes we feel like we're single threading through an email and that's enough, but often it isn't. If you have somebody's mobile number, if you're connected with that person on LinkedIn or X or any other social media platform, try that route. Try to change up the medium through which you're actually following up. Pinpoint that champion or sponsor and ask, "Hey, I know I've been emailing you as well, but since we're not getting anything back from the group, I thought I'd try you on LinkedIn to see if you're still interested in continuing the evaluation." Tip number 3. You should also think about creating urgency in your follow-up. Your follow-ups shouldn't just be, "Hey, I'm just checking in." They should also have consequences for not replying back. Now, I know it's tough on the first call because you're not actually mentioning pricing, you're not offering discounts, you feel like you don't have a lot of leverage. But the next time you get on that intro call, think about creating a scarce resource on that first call that you can take away if they don't respond to you on subsequent follow-ups. So even if you're not actually pinpointing a pricing proposal, you could say, "Hey, by the way, this is preferred pricing for our early customers, as long as you're willing to move forward within the next few weeks on a POC." If you say something like that on the first call, in the follow-up, you could say, "As I mentioned, I want you to be able to take advantage of some of the preferred pricing I mentioned. So if our product is still of interest and you'd like to take advantage, I'd love to hear back from you so that we can move forward in this evaluation. If not, I'll just move on and then we can reconnect when you're ready to formalize a evaluation of our product." So that's an example of creating urgency. You can also create urgency with your resources. On the first call, you could say, "Hey, you know what? For the founding team, for the POCs that I'll directly be involved with as a founder or executive, I'm doing that with the next 10 customers because I want to make sure they see the white glove service and they see how interested we are in having you directly contribute to the roadmap evolution over the next few quarters. If you say something like that on the first call, saying, hey, there's a finite number of companies that I'm directly going to be involved with or that are going to get special white glove treatment, you can again mention that in the email. You can say, we're moving really quickly, and so the implementation team I wanted to have you work with directly, they're starting to get their calendars booked up. Can we move forward? And are you still interested in working with us on this very bespoke proof of concept or evaluation that will get you in front of our founding team? Again, it's another kind of consequence. It's an urgency tactic, and it shouldn't be disingenuous. It should be authentic. And the truth is, for the early customers, that they will get outsized attention from you as a founder or early executive. So you should really play into that and see how serious they are. And if they don't reply to even something like that, they might not have been interested in the product or the problem that you're solving for. So that's the third tip: create urgency around the follow-up. The last thing I'll say is, obviously if you're getting ghosted by a lead right now, this is not something you can implement with that particular lead, but for future leads, really think about creating enough space for next steps on that call. If you don't take the time to say, when should I expect to hear back from you? Or what is the actual timeline of this decision? And what happens if I don't hear from you next week? If you don't understand the parameters of when you're supposed to hear back, you might just be getting ghosted because this is actually their normal cadence, or this is actually a reasonable timeline for them to evaluate things. You want to hear answers like, listen, Peter, this is urgent, but we're not probably going to talk about this internally for another 2 weeks. Then you can, reframe the ghosting and say, you know what, I'm actually not being ghosted just because I haven't heard back in a week. It's just that I'm in the middle of them evaluating something internally or having to internally huddle. So focusing on what the process is for decision making with your company, or with your prospects, I should say, will enlighten you around what the steps and what the cadence should be, what the length of time should be for you to hear back from your prospects. Sometimes I talk to clients and they're actually not getting ghosted. They're just in the middle of a long evaluation, or they're in the middle of an evaluation process that culturally usually does take long because the company has other priorities, or because they just take a little bit longer to move from step 1 to step 2. So my advice here, again, is to really make sure you focus on creating space for next steps on the first call so that you can understand the nuances and the intricacies of when you're going to hear back. And you want to be able to sequence, okay, I'm going to reach out to you in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 2 days in a way that's intentional and based off of what the prospect evaluation cycle is like. So try these different methods out. If you want me to dive into any particular area in a more comprehensive or deeper way, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to engage there or record a follow-up around other potential tips that could work when you feel like your leads or prospects are ghosting you.